Alright, so more often than not, I do feel like I'm reading a different story than most Game of Thrones theorists. Now, this video is probably going to seem like I was sipping on a little too many of that sweet arbor gold, but I think that there's some value you can get from it if you can decipher what I'm saying. Because I'm either crazy, or I'm closer than most to deciphering what George R. R. Martin is trying to tell us. I guess those two are not mutually exclusive. Number 1, Introduction. Taking place thousands of years before the events of Game of Thrones, the series chronicles the world's descent from the golden age of... That's already a lie. Golden age of heroes, my ass, into its darkest hour. So the series chronicles the world's descent from the golden age of heroes into the darkest hour, the long night. And only one thing is for sure. From the horrifying secrets of Westeros' history to the true origin of the White Walkers. That's right. Season 6, that was not the first White Walker. We'll get to that. The mysteries of the East to the Starks of legend. Yeah, the Starks were hard men in hard times. It's not the story we know. Oh. Number 2. Ooh, this is a good one. Named Goldman, she's going to be producing it, or she's the showrunner. And you've got George R. R. Martin. Oh, God bless you, George. And Goldman, she's probably Team Lannister. I'm House Stark. No, I'm not. Free folk, baby. All right. But the thing is, we're going to go a little different route with this. We're going to explore what they said. Everything's a lie, right? The long night never happened. The long night's a lie. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to go over the fact that this little thing spoils not only what's going to happen in the prequel, but season 8. All right, number 3. I can't really read my notes, but we're going to hang in there. All right, why did it happen? Why is there a lie? There's a couple reasons. First off, if you go back 12,000 years, that's when, the history sort of started with the humans and the children. And 8,000 years, that's supposedly when the long night happened. And then thousands of years after that, maybe like 6,000 or 4,000 BC, the Annals came. The thing is, the large majority of that time period, there was no written history. So the first reason that the history that we know, that we're told in the world of Ice and Fire, and that people like Bran Stark, and they're all told, it's all a lie. It didn't happen the way they thought it happened. The first reason is because of telephone. You've got oral history or songs. Words change. Like, the prophecy about like the sun hit its face? That probably wasn't the sun. It was probably a sun, S-O-N, or a monkey's tail. It wasn't like a monkey with a tail. It was probably a woman who climbed a tower, fell off and died. And we're not talking about Ashara Dane. We're talking about the Night King's mom. The bastard of Winterfell's mom. After he killed his father, she climbed the first keep. Jumped. A monkey's tail. All right, I'm nerding out a little bit too much. Let me take a step back. So the first reason that history is wrong is because there was no written history. And when people say even the truth, it just gets messed up over time. The game of telephone. The second reason is because winners decide what's said. Just look at Joffrey. He cut out that singer's tongue for singing a song that was bad about him and his family. Thousands of years ago, you cannot trust those songs. So there's 2 ways to actually decipher the truth. First is green sight. Bran can see the truth. When you look in past visions, you have a clear perception of what happened in the past. In the future, it's all shadows, it's metaphors, it's hard to tell the future. But you can see the past. You can see what actually happened, like at the Tower of Joy. And the second way are runes. R-U-N-E-S, I think. Cave paintings and shit. But you need to interpret those runes correctly. I don't think they did in season 7. Number 4, the timelines. All right, so there's the timeline that we're told to believe and that the characters in the story are told to believe, and then there's the timeline that actually happened. I'm going to take a stab at this, but I think I got it. So the timeline that we're supposed to believe is that 12,000 years ago, the children battled the humans, and they ended up having a peace pact. There was the Age of Heroes, and then like 4,000 years later, 8,000 BC, there was the Long Night. But what I'm going to propose is that there's 2 Night Kings. The first Night King happened in a war that happened thousands of years prior to the Long Night. We've got this guy from the cave ruins. He's got a beard. That's a beard, right? And we've got this guy. There's no beard. But what really happened? Number 5, what really happened? So there's evidence of sort of fire, team fire, being in Westeros thousands of years prior to the Long Night. There's the Seastone Chair, the Iron Islands. It's made out of the oily black stone that you'd find in places like Valyria or Asshai. Asshai is the real deal we're talking about. You've also got the Old Town, the Tower of Old Town, like the base of it's made out of that same material. And there's an island there called Battle Isle. What battle happened there? So what I propose is that 12,000 years ago, that's when the true war of Ice and Fire happened. And at the end, you get to the Song of Ice and Fire. We'll get to that in a second. All right, you've got 7 areas of Westeros. You got the North, the Iron Islands, the Vale, the Riverlands, the Reach, the Westerlands, and then Dorne. Dorne, if you're a little drunk and you say Dorne, 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 it sounds like dawn dawn of a new day. And there's a sword called Dawn that Arthur Dayne used. Sir Arthur Dayne, the Sword of the Morning, used a sword called Dorne, and his house is at Starfall. I think it's actually Starkfall. I think it was a Stark who died. Oh yeah. Basically what I'm getting at is that I think the first war there were White Walkers. One of them was a Stark, and they were fighting fire people down in the Battle Isle. So he dropped there, he fell, they slew him, and that sword became the sword that we know as Dorne. The reason I say this, as you know, is because there's evidence that the River Rhoyne over in Essos, it froze all the way down to the joining of the Salhoro, which is at the same latitude as Dorne. So that was the first war, the War of Ice and Fire, and the guy died. The guy with the beard, he died. He's dead. He's not the Night King that we know. Number 6, the wall. So then they build a wall and they build the Night's Watch. But think about it. The wall's foundation is made out of stone, just like Storm's End and Winterfell. And we've seen in Storm's End, it has magic in the foundations of that stone. And the magic prevents dead from coming in. We think of the wall as being built to protect from White Walkers coming south. In Storm's End, we saw that it actually protects from demons, shadow babies coming in. That's why Melisandre had Davos ship her underneath the walls, and then she had that baby so they can go up and it can murder Renly. So maybe the wall was actually built to prevent the fire people from coming south, because the world's round. If you think about Ashai, they can come across over the top down through the lands of always winter. So the wall may not have been built to keep out White Walkers. It may have actually been a song of ice and fire, the fire being from Ashai. And then they're coming over down through the lands of always winter, and the White Walkers are the people in Westeros. All these people like Garth Greenhand, Doran Godsgrief, Lan the Clever, all these people that live hundreds or thousands of years. One of them, they say they swiped a sword and it broke across him. That's exactly what happens with White Walkers. So I think Westeros was actually inhabited by leaders who were White Walkers living thousands of years. And then the fire people came. So the war was actually a war of ice and fire, and that wall was built to keep out fire coming from Essos. Number 7, the truth. What really happened? So we're led to believe that there was the war, and then there was a peace pact, and I guess they pushed the White Walkers all the way up north, above the wall, and then they built the wall, and that the Night King we know, he was the first White Walker, which we've already gone over. He's not the first White Walker. At this point, there were no White Walkers. There was a wall, there was a Night's Watch, and they were protecting themselves against the fiery hand of R'hllor, the people over in Ashai, coming from the north. So they had the wall there to protect from the shadow babies coming south of the wall. And here's where it gets interesting. The shady Stark bastards. So you've got the whole story of Bael the Bard. I'm not going to get too much into that, but basically you've got a wildling named Bael. He sneaks down into Winterfell. They think that he kidnaps the only Stark girl. The Stark house is about to go under. And they think that he stole her, he kidnapped her. But then time goes by and all of a sudden they hear a baby crying. She's in the crypts. She's in the crypts of Winterfell. She was there all along, and she gives birth to a baby. That baby essentially it's a bastard. That baby becomes the leader of Winterfell. I think that baby then goes to the wall, kind of like a Jorah Mormont. He gave up his seat for Jeor Mormont gave up his seat for Jorah Mormont. He went to the wall, and Jeor became Lord Commander. So now you've got a son in Winterfell, and you've got the father, the bastard of Winterfell. He may have been legalized. I think his name was Jon Snow. He goes up. He becomes the 13th Lord Commander. And they're doing their thing. They're protecting the realms from the fiery hand of R'hllor, those people over in Essos coming from the north. And then he falls in love with a girl named Danny, just like our boy John fell in love with a girl named Danny. A girl named Danny Flynn. She's a human, not a White Walker, and she went up north. She wanted to be a brother of the Night's Watch, but she was a girl. But he fell in love with her. He declared himself king, her his queen. They're humans. They're not White Walkers, right? That shit's all a lie. Then the brothers of the Night's Watch, or maybe even his own son or his brother, half-brother, they betrayed him. They broke guest right, and they did kinslaying. They killed his wife, Danny Flynn, a human. He fled north, and then he runs into the children. At this point, the Andals are arriving. Now, the Andals are a second wave of burning down the weirwood trees. So the children are like, war's back on. So they convert him into the Night King that we know. He was not the Night King at the Night's Fort. That's all a lie. History is a lie. Danny Flynn, the Night's Queen, was not a White Walker. It's a lie. They made the singers sing those songs to make them seem more heroic than they really were. There was no long night. It was just a struggle over dominion, a struggle over land. And lo and behold, the noble Starks broke guest right, and they were kinslayers. So let's go back to the description for the prequel. Taking place thousands of years before the events of Game of Thrones, the series chronicles the world's descent from the golden age of heroes into its darkest hour, the long night. Or was it its darkest hour because it was about guest right, breaking guest right, and kinslaying? And only one thing is for sure. From the horrifying secrets of Westeros' history to the true origin of the White Walkers, like I said, they existed prior to the Long Night and they existed after the Long Night, but there was no Long Night. From the horrifying secrets of Westeros' history to the true origin of the White Walkers, the mysteries of the East. Yeah, we went over that. They came over. They were battling a war of ice and fire. To the Starks of legend. Not the Starks of truth, the Starks of legend. The Starks were hard men in hard times. It's not the story we think we know.
I was just out here getting pumped for the video. Look, my buddy's here. Hey, buddy, Squirrel. I call him Squirrel because she's never told me his name.